Hello. So today I want to talk a little bit about our interconnectedness, not just the interconnectedness of each of us in the room here, but how we're interconnected with in society, and we affect each other either positively or negatively. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says, if you're going to be selfish, be wisely selfish, and look out not just for yourself but for others. Because, and I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, if others are having a rough time, then it will affect us. And I think he's just trying to get us involved with it, whatever motivation we have. We could have a better motivation for being kind to others than helping ourselves, but it does affect us. When we treat others poorly and the people around us are unhappy, we end up being affected by that. There's a scene from a movie, Annie Hall, that comes to my mind. So Alvy Singer is dating Annie Hall, and she takes him back. I think it's Thanksgiving. Takes him back to her parents, her family's home to meet her family. And at one point, Alvy is walking, probably back from the bathroom. He walks past Annie's brother Dwayne's room, and Dwayne says, "Hey, Abby." And he calls him in, and so they start talking. He's like, "This is my room." And he says, "I want to confess something to you. I think you'll understand because you're an artist too." And then he's pretty deadpan too. He doesn't have a lot of emotion going on. And he says something like, "Sometimes when I'm driving at night, I get this urge that comes up real fast to pull into the oncoming headlights. I can anticipate the crash, the flames rising from the flowing gasoline." And Alvy's like, "Well, Dwayne, I got to go. Because I'm kind of expected back on planet Earth." And he gets up and he leaves. And then later it's Dwayne that's given the job to give them a ride to the airport that evening. So with Alvy cringing every time the headlights pass him. And so Alvy had he hadn't tried to connect with Dwayne. He hadn't, or at least communicate in some way, and it might have been helpful for. He took more of a "it's not my problem" approach, even you're kind of a weird approach, which was kind of weird. But on the way to the airport, it sure looked like it was his problem then. Yeah, and because and that's just kind of an idea for me of how we're all connected. Earlier this year, when we heard about one of the many school shootings, we did prayers for the victims and for the perpetrator. And this got me thinking about how this one person's suffering because they didn't have any way to deal with it or whatever. It ended up, being the conditions for severe suffering for many people. We have this big social problem right now, and that results in this epidemic of violence in this country. Social violence, and a lot of that, we see school shootings and mass school shootings, and it's a big problem. But I don't think the root of this problem is going to be cured by outlawing guns or by giving teachers guns. Either way, if you make guns harder for disturbed, volatile individuals to get, that will help, but it won't get at the root of the problem. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of solutions for these big problems in our society. I'm able to see, that we have problems with people we have a violent paradigm in our society where people have violence and angry responses modeled for them, both from the people around them, maybe the people raising them, and the media they see, TV and movies, video games. It's all like respond with violence. And But I do think that we can change things somewhat just by when we develop concern for others and treat others with kindness and respect. It has a positive effect on those around us. Changing our own attitude and behavior, we facilitate some change in the world around us. And the Buddha taught us that our mental afflictions, such as anger and attachment and ignorance, are the cause of our suffering. But we can't work on other people's minds. We can only work on our own minds. And this has an impact on those around us. By practicing the Buddha's teachings and transforming our own minds, we transform our minds day by day, little step by step. And you may not see the progress at first. You might, until you look back over a period of time and realize that you have changed. Then you see that, yes, indeed, I have, developed some virtuous qualities, and I've shed or minimalized some of my non-virtuous habits and have a calmer and happier mind. And that, for most of us, the scope of whom we influence is pretty limited to those we directly encounter in our daily lives, and maybe who they encounter also. And then for some, like teachers, politicians, authors, celebrities, world leaders, these people have maybe a little bigger scope, maybe a lot bigger scope, depending on who they are, of who they affect. But the effect we have on the world around us, maybe it might be hard for us to see, but it is there. Even if it seems limited to us, it's very important. I think about the people that come to the Abbey a lot, and we affect them a lot. Some people might think, oh, we're hiding out here doing our own thing, looking at the inside of our eyelids. But by working on our own mind, we do affect people. And this is why I wanted to mention this, is because I wanted to say, to encourage each of us and people watching this who practice, that what we do makes a difference. There's a story of, most of you in the room have probably heard this story, where there's a teacher and his disciple walking along an ocean shore after a big storm, and they're finding starfish washed up and stranded on the dry land. And it's early morning, so the sun hasn't killed them yet or dried them out. And the master starts picking them up and putting them in the ocean. And the disciple, following his example, does the same. Then the disciple looks up and he sees thousands upon thousands of starfish along it. And he's like, wow, there's so many. We could do this all day, and it's not going to make any difference. And the master puts another starfish in the water, and he says, it made a big difference to that one. And he continues picking up starfish and releasing them into the water. So we do what we can to be a benefit to those around us. And thus we make a difference in our society when we work to transform our own minds, and so that we can become of more benefit to others. And those we affect others in an expanding ripple. In the Mahayana tradition, the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, our goal is not just to make samsara more pleasant and comfortable, of course, but to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. And we work to transform our minds because we aspire to become fully awakened Buddhas in order to be the best benefit. But that may take a long time. But modeling love and compassion, generosity, ethical conduct, patience, and joyous effort, these can have very positive effects in the short term on the people around us and on our world. Surprisingly big effects. And when I think about the effects others have had on me through practicing these things, that I can see, then I see that how that's true, that what we're doing affects others, because I have seen it. I've learned the value of such things, not just through reading about them, but mostly through being a recipient of others' kindness. You could read about generosity, but if you witness it or receive it, then you really feel it, and then that makes a big difference. So may we aspire to work on developing virtue within our own minds and let our behavior be directed by a kind and compassionate attitude towards all sentient beings. And this will definitely have positive results. As our teacher, Venerable Chodron, says, be content to create the causes.